Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Namaskaram, and this is another episode of Sadhguru Guiding Through Challenging Times. Thank you very much, Sadhguruji, and Namaskaram, and thank you for
Namaskaram.
joining us and our viewers here on Times Now. And
Namaskaram
Sadhguruji,
to
this
all of
is a
them.
special episode once again with questions from our viewers. And as always, I'll take the liberty of asking my own question before I lead into the questions that have
Privilege
come to
of
us.
being a journalist, huh?
True, true. I'm taking the liberty with your permission and with the permission of our viewers. Sadhguruji, there is a lot of pressure, there is a lot of negativity, not just because of health reasons and the scare and the pandemic of coronavirus that we are facing, but there is also this nagging doubt of how much this will hurt us in economic terms. You know, we are a country where jobs are a challenge, where the economic slowdown over the last couple of years has had its own ramifications. And now with this lockdown and this crusade and this fight and battle and war against the coronavirus, how many businesses are going to be affected? Is the lockdown going to be extended? When we come back, will we have the same kind of jobs, or will there be pressures on us? All of these questions professionals at this moment are dealing with, which is taking a major part of their me time during the lockdown. What would you say to them?
Well, whether you're an individual person or a small business or a large business or an institution, whatever the nature of your activity, well, all of us are going to take a substantial hit in terms of economy. There's no question about that. But how quickly we bounce back is also in our hands. As you know, a few days ago, a finance minister from a German state has committed suicide. So what I would like to tell everyone is, see, certain times the world gets in a certain way at us, or generally every moment of our life, what world throws at us is not our choice. But what we make out of it is entirely our choice. So we must exercise this choice to the fullest right now, because right now the world is throwing a googly at us. We need to hit this ball right, it's very, very important. So right now, when a certain situation is there, instead of dealing with that, if we start thinking about the post-situation, how are we going to deal with it? I'm not saying we should not think about it at all, but you cannot handle it now. Right now, the important thing is to handle the situation. To handle the existing situation, the administration has a lot of things to do. Medical agencies and the various arms of the government have enormous amount of work to do. All of us are doing whatever we can do to support them. Many of us are working with the state governments and the central government to see that their workload is reduced and we can take up some of the burden. But we can only handle the present situation. Post-scenario, well, all of us are going to be hurt one way or the other, but the most important thing right now is, through this situation, which is kind of threatening our life and the life of our parents and our grandparents if we have them, the older generation, how little a damage or how little a loss we come out of it. Above all, you stay alive. This is very important, because this is the most important thing in our life is that we are alive. Everything else is secondary, so let us use this to recoup ourselves, to get physically fit, mentally more capable and resourceful. Don't go on endlessly reading about the same corona one virus. How much will you read about it? We understand we are the carriers and we must not provide transportation system for them, so maintain social distancing, stay at home, and there are many things that you can do to enhance your profession, to enhance your business, to enhance whatever other activity that you're doing. So sit, plan, work these things out. Don't go on listening to the corona fatalities and corona infections. A whole lot of people are maintaining that. Well, you at the media may have to do that, but the rest of the people, once a day if they look at it, it's enough. Rest of the time, leave the virus out of your mind. It can only get into your body, please don't let it enter your mind and destroy you from within.
Sadhguruji, I'm not sure whether you're increasing the viewership of the channel or you're actually telling people to stay away from Times Now because we are giving information on coronavirus. But on a serious note, some people have questions, and questions regarding the spiritual self. I have a question which says, what can I do if daily practice of Om meditation becomes overwhelming?
I don't know what kind of Om meditation they're doing. There are… see, these are essentially what you're talking about is, you're trying to use sound or reverberation as a way of creating well-being within yourself. The sound which is together, three sounds put together, A, Vu and Ma put together in a certain proportion, will bring a certain level of balance and a certain stimulated level of energy within you. There is a specific way of using it. Cannot become overwhelming unless your neighbor is doing it very loudly. It is something that settles you, that brings in balance and proportionate kind of dimension within you of your body, mind and emotion will come to proportions which are manageable. If it's becoming overwhelming, most probably you're doing it in a wrong manner. I'm sorry to say that, but it is time that you address this properly. Well, we have provided these things, these tools on our apps and other platforms. If you want to make use of it, you can. But the important thing is, do not do something which you just picked up day before yesterday from somebody. Do not do something which is not a beginner's kind of stuff. Do not do some complex yoga that you read in a book because you have 3 weeks' time. Please do not do such things, because yogic practices have various possibilities. Some of them are too dynamic for a whole lot of people to handle. They must go step by step towards it. So it's always best to do beginner's practice. This is why we are providing what is called as Upa Yoga, not yoga. Upa Yoga, which is sub-yoga or pre-yoga. These are things that everybody can do. Do not take up some complex practices without knowing the consequences and various parameters under which they are beneficial.
Sadhguruji, there is another question, and that question really again has this ramification of people who are professionals working in different cities. Charu Banerjee says her parents, old parents are in Kolkata. She is working in Mumbai, and obviously her parents have problems in dealing with this lockdown situation for day-to-day existence issues, as well as the issue of the fear of the virus, which could take older people and affect them more than anybody else.
This is a genuine concern. This is unfortunately true, because these are times when most of us are working not in the places where we were born, we are working elsewhere. That means our parents and the older relatives are not necessarily with us. So this is a very sensitive time for that. It is important, we are working towards this in various levels. I think the government is also looking at it, that we have to create if the lockdown continues beyond 3 weeks, in case it does, I hope it doesn't, but if it does continue, it becomes very important that older generation of people over 75, 80 years of age, we must create safe enclaves for them where responsible and people who are medically capable people manage their situation. But those of you who are separated and stuck in different cities, I know it is a very sensitive time, but we just have to create the necessary facilities so that our senior citizens are safe in a period like this. This is the most sensitive concern right now in the country. The people who are beyond a certain age group, how to see that we don't have fatalities in that group, that is the real concern. The younger people, the stronger people will go through this with certain amount of symptoms. They may not necessarily lead towards fatalities. With little bit of medical attention, they may be able to recover. But vulnerable sections, those who have gone through any kind of organ transplants, immunoblockers, cardiac ailments, now diabetics also in the scope of those things, but particularly people who are 65, 70 years of age, it is a great concern. So I would say every one of you, we are activating our volunteers in this regard, but every one of you, if this is an aged person without any young relatives around them to take care, it is our business right now to see them as ours and take care of them. This is most important.
So, community service, and we have to find that caring bone within our own bodies to be able to look after such people who may need this kind of attention and help. Also, Sadhguruji, there is a question, and I think this question would be top of the mind for many people today. In the Indian culture, it is always seen that karma is what dictates what happens to us. In such a time when such a pandemic has taken place, is it the karma of the country? Is it the karma of the people? If we get infected by this virus, is it our karma? How would you describe to us and break down and analyze this to us on what have we done wrong in our karma to be in such a situation as a country, as a people today?
Well, let us understand this word properly. Today it is part of the English lexicon also. The word karma is in the Oxford English Dictionary. The word karma literally means action. As every moment of our lives, we are performing physical action. Even if you are not physically active, still physical action is happening, mental action is happening, emotional activity is happening, and energetic activity also is happening. In our wakefulness and sleep, this is happening. So every moment of our life, we are doing 4 dimensions of karma. The footprint of these 4 dimensions of karma is the residual karma, or what remains in our system at various levels. The way we think, the way we feel, the way we do things and the way we don't do things, the memory of that may not be a conscious memory in our minds, but the memory of that is retained in the entire mechanism that we call as human mechanism. This memory plays out, or in other words, to put it in modern terminology, we are building an unconscious software throughout our life. If you walk 25 feet within, let's say, any place, in this garden if I walk, in these 25 feet, there may be 25 varieties of smells. I may not register this consciously, but my instruments of smell registers this and it stays with me and it plays its own role in everything that I do, what I like, what I don't like, how I respond to various things. The entire spiritual process is just this, breaking of the karma means just this. What you would do by tendencies, you try to do it consciously. If you go by your tendencies, you will act in a certain way. This is what we are referring to as karma, that is an unconscious bank of memory which decides how you should live, what you should do and everything. Right now, coming to these times of the virus hitting us, right now the bad karma would be is you did not maintain social distancing, this is bad karma. You did not wash your hands as you should, bad karma. You did not sanitize that, bad karma. You are irresponsibly scratching yourself all over, bad karma. So, will our karma determine what happens to us during these times? 100%. This is exactly what everybody is trying to convey. How you conduct yourself right now is going to determine whether you're going to live or die, or whether you will become a source of problem or source of solution in this country. It is always so, but in extreme situations like this, it's more visible that if you perform any irresponsible action, the consequences are immediate. So, is it our karma? Yes. We must understand this. This is the most dynamic way to exist. When I say, my life is my karma, what I am saying is, my life is my making. This is the only culture, this is the only culture in the world which has told you this, your life is your making. Everywhere else in the world, in every other culture, you're always told that your life is managed from elsewhere. There's another manager, super manager up there. You must understand this. This is something that has to get across to Indian people. This is the basis of who we are. We are a godless nation. We know the technology of God-making, but there is no the God in our culture. Here we always told you, your life is your karma, it is entirely your making. This is the most dynamic way to approach life. Unfortunately, we have made such a dynamic process into a fatalistic thing. Oh, your karma, we are saying, no, no. Karma means, I'm saying, this is my making. I'm well today, this is my making. I'm ill tomorrow, this is my making. Whichever way I am right now, I am joyful or miserable, this is entirely my making. This is what we are saying when we say this is my karma. So, definitely this is our karma. How we deal with this is how we perform our karma right now.
That's very well put, and I think everybody can identify with the way you've explained it, Sadhguruji. I now have a question which is coming from several parents, and Seema Jadhav writing this from Mumbai, and from Delhi as well. We have a mother who's asking this question, that during this period of lockdown, we have a specific issue with our children. Children who have too much energy, who are cooped up in the confines of the house, not able to go out and play, see friends. How do we keep them busy and gainfully distracted?
You must stop being parents and become their friends. This is a good time to do that. Because children need mothers and fathers. Children need mothers till they are 3–4 years of age. They need fathers till about 8–10 years of age. After that, what they need is friends. If you don't become a good friend to them, they'll find an alternative elsewhere, and we don't know from what wisdom that friend is coming. So these 3 weeks are a wonderful opportunity for you to transform yourself from a, what to say, very a position of height or… See, parents think they are in charge of everything. Parents think that they own everything. From that to become a friend means you come down level with your children, and that's what is very needed, because people like to interact with those people who are level with them in some way, not people who are sitting way up there. Nobody wants to talk to them. Unless there is some benefit coming from them, they will look up, otherwise if they have a choice, they wouldn't want to look up to anybody. So this is a fundamental thing that we need to understand. This is a good time, these 3 weeks. Please drop your parenthood and become good friends with your children.
Sadhguruji, there is also a question that comes up at this moment. Even husbands and wives are spending too much time together normally.
It's too much time.
Yeah, because for working people…
the first time you got the opportunity.
For working people, very often their days are so busy and interaction time is less, so you manage to keep fights to the basic minimum. Do you think there is something specific, couples can discover at this point in time in order to really consolidate their relationships, not only between the husband and wife, but with a whole lot of people around them, families on both sides, children, friends? How can they do that?
So, being at work has been a good way to dodge each other. Now, nowhere to go, both of you together. See, please, this needs to be understood. Human relationships and the nature of human relationships are such. We make various relationships in our life. Well, we make relationships at work, we make relationships in partnerships of business, we make relationships on a personal level as spouse, parents, children, and variety of other relationships that we have, of variety of friendships. We need to understand this. We make these relationships because in some way we need that. Either to fulfill our physical needs, psychological needs, emotional needs, financial needs, or social needs, variety of needs that human beings have. to fulfill this, you are forming a relationship. But once you are into any relationship, after some time, particularly in this husband and wife relationship, you start assuming it is the other person who needs you, not the other way around. You need to understand you are in this because you need it. So, you need it means you must look at it with some value, you must look at it with a certain sense of love and intention, because if you think they need it, you will suddenly become entitlement, all kinds of entitlements that people have, husbands and wives, parents, even friends unfortunately, and of course in professional relationship, people will start behaving with a certain sense of entitlement simply because they think other people need them. If you understand you need them for your own well-being, you will treat it very differently. And we need to understand this. Fundamentally, people are making relationships because they think they… they cannot be happy without those people, they know that. But when they're with them, they're one big misery. With them, big problem, without them, big problem. This means you must understand the problem is within us. If you were joyful and then you made a relationship because you want to share your joy, that would be very different. You are a miserable person but you think somebody else should make you joyful, now this is a challenging situation. This is a time, these few weeks that they have given you, this is a gift from the virus unfortunately. This should have been done consciously, but anyway it has come our way. This is the time to turn this around. This is a time where you understand relationships are about you sharing the best that you have with people around you, not about taking the best that you can take from them. Because in taking something, there is a certain pleasure. There is a certain pleasure of being dominant. There is a certain pleasure that you are the power in the situation. But if you want to know the joy of life, you must understand it is in giving, that when you share your joy, it is almost… it is far more impactful for yourself and is a more profound experience for yourself than taking something. This one can see in terms of, suppose you might have gone to many events and functions and parties that other people have thrown, but the day you organized one event, that day probably you didn't get to eat properly, you didn't get to do anything properly, all you did is work, work and work. But still, being a host always has been a bigger experience than being a guest somewhere. When you go as a guest, everything works well, you are fine. If something doesn't work well, you are full of complaint and come back. But when you're a host, you're always seeing how to do the best that you can do. Human joy is not in comfort and getting good things. Human joy is in about being able to perform at our limits. Somehow we are at our best. That is where joy is.
Absolutely, so well said. For taking, we should actually be very willing to give, because there is more pleasure in giving than in taking. It is important for us to once again rediscover sharing and caring. And above all, what is important is we should be driven only by need, not by greed, because a lot of our life is now dominated by greed. But when we see the suffering around us, when we see the need around us, we learn that we are probably better off, and what we need to do is cover our greed and actually extend our hand in help to those in need. Those are the values that we need to discover in these 3 weeks. It has been a pleasure, Sadhguruji, in getting insights from you. Namaskaram, thank you very much. And we will continue to look forward to our interactions with you as our viewers also are enjoying this, and we'll come back with more questions and of course more learnings from Sadhguruji. Namaskar.
It looks like somebody is going to come up with virus scriptures in future.
Yeah, we look forward to that. Maybe virus scriptures will teach us how to move forward in this 21st century. Thank you, Sadhguruji. Thank you, viewers, for joining us on this special edition.